Welcome. This is Mr. Fisher Flips 3rd grade. Today's agenda is we're going to look at the watch summary question. We're going to look at that again to make sure you're doing it correctly. The lesson objective will be reviewing your times tables. We're going to do a problem called the anytime problem. We have some whiteboard lessons. You will have some practice, and I have an activity worksheet that you can do and a quick quiz that you'll have to take online. If you notice the pumpkins right here, these are provided by Ryan Bliss from digitalblasphemy.com. He has provided a license for teacher to be able to use his artwork in class, so you might see a lot of his work. Watch summary question. Well, Nessa's mom was able to help her understand what I was trying to say earlier. If you put the WSQ in your notebook, you'll be able to show me that you're ready to discuss the lesson with your group. So the W stands for when did you watch the lesson, where did you watch it, and with whom did you watch the lesson video. S, sum up what you saw, summarize something you learned from the lesson. And summarize means make it short, sentence or two describing what you learned. And the Q stands for question. Write a question about something you didn't understand from the lesson. Now, Anessa's mom, Mrs. Clark, also helped me realize that make a question that your other classmates, someone else in your class, can answer. You need to know the answer. So that's a very good point. Thank you for contributing that and let me share it with the rest of the class. Well, today's math objective is to build fluency with the zeros to the tens times tables. We want to be able to do it with multiplication and with division. And this quote is from Albert Einstein. It's not that I'm so smart, it's just that I stay with problems longer. Well, hopefully you can realize that a little bit of time and you'll be able to get all the problems. And just stay with it a little bit longer and you'll see. Remember, Albert Einstein was probably the smartest person in the world, right? Well, you guys are smart too. Remember that. So, lesson objective. Complete a multiplication table. Since you guys did that in the last lesson, we'll make sure that today's will be a scrambled multiplication table. Okay, and that will be in activity 3. Well, start out with this story problem. When Josh, his cat, and his dog all stand on the scale together, the scale reads 107 pounds. When Josh and his cat stand on the scale, it reads 82 pounds. When Josh and his dog stand on the scale, it reads 95 pounds. How much does Josh weigh? Well, let's go through the process. First of all, understand. We understand all together that it's 107 pounds. So, £107 right there. So if we take 107 pounds and we subtract 82 and 95, that doesn't make sense. What's going to be our plan? We know that when Josh and his cat are on there, it's 82 pounds. And when Josh and his dog are on there, it's 95 pounds. So we need to figure out what is the difference. How much does Josh weigh? I'll let you think about that. Pause the video. The answer ends up being 70 pounds. How did they get that answer? Well, see if you can figure it out. We're going to move on. But here's another problem you can do. Whiteboard lesson. Well, hopefully you can get on the website and be able to use iTools, because this is very useful to be able to check to see if you know some of the answers. If you get onto iTools, you can be able to practice your 3's times tables, your 6 times tables, and you can be able to give yourself a chance to check to see if you get the answer correct. And you can actually see it visually too. I wanted to show you something on the multiplication table. If we split this up into 4 parts, we can see that there's 1, 2, 3, and 4 parts. And tell me, which one of these do you find the easiest? Quadrant 1, 2, 3, or 4? Yeah, exactly. In quadrant 1, those are the easy ones. We know 3 times 2 is 6. We know 4 times 4 equals 16. And we know our 5 times tables. We've learned those because we've basically practiced some of these since we were little kids. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 5, 10, 15, 20. So that's our easy ones. These 2's in this quadrant 2 and quadrant 3, they're not as easy, but if you look at quadrant 4, those are our toughies. We don't know some of those a lot of the time, and so maybe when you go to practice today, you want to be able to practice quadrant 4 or do some extra practice in quadrant 2 and 3 just so you get some of those down. Okay, for practice, we're going to look at this problem. It's called scrambling the multiplication table. And what we want to do is we want to be able to see if we can figure out some of these answers. Well, I see that there's some 2's in this column. So I'm going to put, or in this row, not column. So I'm going to put a 2 there. And 2 times what equals 2? 1, right? So we've got 2 possible answers. Let's check. If that's 1, then 1 times 6 equals 6, and 1 times 10 equals 10. Well, let's look at this row. If we look at that row, 10, 50, no, they all end in zeros. That has to be a 10, right? It just feels right. Well, let's go through and check. Let's put a 5 up here. This is a puzzle that we can check. We go 5 times 6 equals 30. That one fits. 5 times 2 equals 10. Hey, I think we got it. That was our key right there, was finding that row of 10s so we can figure out the rest of the answer. I'll let you pause the video and see if you can figure out the rest. This next one's a little bit harder, but I want to do part of it together. I like to start right here, and I know that 27, there are only 2 factors that make up the product 27, and that's 3 and 9. Well, if I put 9 here and 3 here, let's go through and check. 3, that's a multiple of 3's. There's 3, that can be a 3, that can be a 3. Maybe I made a great guess. Maybe I didn't. But if that's 3, then we know that 3 times what equals 3? 1. Well, That seems to fit because there's only one way to get to 1. 1 times 1. Oh, that's looking like there's a 9. What other multiples of 18 are there? 9 times what equals 2. Now there's a blank spot here. Maybe we need to figure that part out. 1 times 6. So I'm going to put a 6 here. And let's check a couple answers. 6 times 3 equals 18. That's correct. 6 times 1 equals 6. 6 times something equals 24. And 6 times 2 equals 12. So 6 times what equals 24? Oh, I know 6, 12, 18, 24. That was 4 fingers. Pause the video and see if you can figure out the last 2 squares, this one and this one. Here we go, page 27. Well, I'm going to read this from the book because these puzzles are hard, right? Well, if you have trouble getting started on this, maybe scan to find something that looks something you can pick out, a pattern. Maybe you can search for columns that are times by 2s or times by 5s. If you look at that column right there, they're times by 5s. And look for columns with 9s. 9, 45, that has to have a 9 in it. And that's a 9 and that's a 5. Maybe this should be a 1. Well, we're actually going to let you try doing a couple of these. And for me, they're just puzzles. They're fun to do. But what I'd like you to do is decide how many of these you'd like to do. I would probably do 1 or 2 the first night, and then 1 or 2 the second night. So C and D are a lot harder, but A we started to do, and B you can do. This will be a worksheet that you can print off, and it will be right underneath the video. And for me, this is just fun. For you, it might be a challenge, but you can pick out some of the things right off the bat. The only way to get it to 100 is 10 times 10. So that has to be 10, and that's 10. It also helps you learn your multiplication a lot faster. Just letting you know. Well, that brings us to the quiz. Well, I'm going to put this up on the board. Here it comes. Here's your math assessment, and you go online to that website and you can actually take these 1, 2, 3, 5 question quiz. Let's make that big so you can see it. I'll actually try to make sure this is also underneath the video so you can click on it and go take the quiz. This will be the last thing we're doing on Friday in math, so I want you to be able to do well on it.